to Sovereign Conversations with the Soul Attorney, the podcast where law, leadership, and liberation collide. I'm your host, Vanessa Locicero, lawyer, entrepreneur, energy worker, and your guide to building a business and life that's truly sovereign. Here, we challenge the status quo, outdated business rules, and explore what it really means to be sovereign in your life and work. Whether we're breaking down legal essentials, tapping into spiritual downloads and the power of intention, or we're having deep, unfiltered conversations with visionary entrepreneurs, healers, and thought leaders, every episode is designed to help you step into your power, protect what matters, and create your life on your own terms. So if you're ready to create a life and business rooted in belief, power, and purpose, take a deep breath, step into your sovereignty, because court is now in session. Oh, 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 oh. Welcome back to this week's episode of Sovereign Conversations with the Soul Attorney. I'm Vanessa Locicero, your host, and today I'm joined by Brittany Bird, my incredible guest who's doing amazing work in the field of health and wellness. If you've ever felt disconnected from your body, if you've ever felt like you have no idea how to heal or what's going on in your internal world, this conversation is really going to light the path for you and empower you to take those next steps to get in touch with your body sovereignty and take it to the next level. So welcome, Brittany. Before I kind of go into, your whole spiel and tell everyone about why you're so incredible, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. I am so excited. For the listeners, I was just talking to Vanessa. I've been enjoying the Sovereign conversation so far that I've been hearing, and I'm stoked to be here because I think it's such a vital component that people need.
Oh, awesome. Well, thanks for that, Britt. And thank you so much for being here. And for those of you who don't know Brittany is a manual osteopath and an educator specializing in integrative medicine. As the founder of Totality Therapies, she helps clients optimize their health by addressing physical, mental, and emotional well-being. With a deep passion for adventure and holistic health, Brittany combines cutting-edge medical knowledge with hands-on therapy to empower people to take charge of their bodies. She also teaches across North America, training professionals on advanced medical technologies and innovative healing approaches. So, without further ado, I would love to open the doorway for this beautiful conversation that we're about to have. So, Brittany, if you could start us off today by sharing with the audience how you found your own sovereignty. What does sovereignty mean to you? And tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah. So I'll start it off with what sovereignty means to me. And that's really about radical self-awareness and personal responsibility now. It's having that knowledge and intuition and confidence to make those aligned choices for yourself, your body, mind, and life as a whole. Because we really do rely on those external systems to dictate our well-being. And that's why I got into this, because my story is where I relied on those systems. And I had stress-induced eating disorders. And it was so funny. I went the system route because I was mad I developed them because I was an athlete. I never looked at the body as a negative thing or food as a negative thing. So to develop such a thing was completely outside myself, which in itself led me to question everything. Like, why is this happening? But what was wild is the fact that through those external systems, they were telling me when I was fine, when I still wasn't. And I had to go to those outside the box to find ways to finally come to a whole. So what they were doing is just saying, hey, your numbers on this lab test are good. You're good now. But it wasn't. So they weren't looking at me as a whole. And that's kind of where I got into this, to really figure out how can we help people to really understand that we have to look at them as like a wheel, right? You have to have every sort of spoke in proper place in order for the wheel to function effectively and efficiently.
Oh, I love that. Radical self-awareness is it's such a cornerstone of sovereignty because it allows you to take responsibility for, what's going on. And I know in that holistic work that you do, you kind of empower people to question those norms. So tell me a little bit about your mission, as you're empowering people with, that radical self-awareness. How does that seep into your work and your mission?
Yeah. So I really my primary mission, I would say, is to really empower the individuals to take ownership of their health by bridging the gap of science. Because of course we do need to, I would say, people kind of badmouth science sometimes in the holistic space, which it's not about that. It's blending the two. So we want to gap the bridge between science, holistic medicine, and self-awareness, because I think that's really truly where the magic happens, is looking at the scientific proof that's already been proven time and time again, and then working with the person of how do we just need to tweak that a little bit so it works for you individually, right? Because there is no cookie cutter plan when it comes to health and wellness. We have to understand that every person is unique and individualized, but still utilize science where it can benefit us, right? And bring in the holistic modalities. So I believe true healing happens when people understand how their bodies work and take an active role in their well-being.
Okay, I love that. There were some things that you said that really triggered for me. One was, it's not an either or, it's an and. So, yes. Realizing that there's all kinds of structures and systems and modalities and ways of approach and perspectives that we can look at the world of our own personal health and our, taking that responsibility for our health. That, some people think because I want to do it the holistic way, I shouldn't go see my doctor, but it's an and. It doesn't have to be an either or, I guess, in some situations. And education is that empowering moment. So I love kind of what you're saying is taking what's out there, what's established. No need to reinvent the wheel, but if there's a way that we can integrate these practices that see the rest of us as a whole. So I would love for you to share some of the practices that maybe you personally integrated into your own sovereignty journey that you now share with your clients.
Yeah. So we kind of talked about, I teach them, don't just treat the symptoms, right? That's just a signal. That's just a sign. But the number one thing that my patients have issues with is understanding their body signals and signs, because they don't trust their intuition. They don't trust what their body's been trying to tell them. So for me, one of my favorite things to do is, if I said to you right now, say to yourself, I'm an infinite being. And if you feel into that, you feel this lightness, you feel this openness, you feel this, right? Now, if you turn and say, I'm a finite being, you can feel your body start to kind of close
Shrink.
Off. Yeah, exactly. Shrink. You get heavy. That right there is reading.
Finite.
Yeah, right. And that right there is actually listening to your body. So I really teach my patients, and even in my own daily practice, whenever I'm about to do something, does it feel light or heavy? Does it make me feel like that infinite? Does it make me feel like that finite? Because as I tell every patient, you know your body better than anyone. Yeah, I might have all these degrees in understanding how the body operates, but I'm not in your body like you are. And when you actually pay attention, that gives you the sovereignty, that gives you the power. When you harness that to be like, oh my gosh, it's sending me signs and signals all the time. So I personally practice that on a day-to-day basis with what kind of treatment I'm going to approach with this patient while talking with them. I'll give them the options, teach them, allow them to decide what feels light or heavy for them, even to the weights that I will pick for my workout. What feels light, what feels heavy, applying it to all aspects of my being.
Do you say that is your intuition? When you're when you say listening to my body, do you see your body talking to you as the same thing as, a download or something from your intuition?
I would say it's actually a little different. So when the body's talking, it's actually your cells communicating right away before you can.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So the heart math, they did a really cool study, and they had it where they would send pictures right before someone, and they measured the heart coherence of what it was. So these pictures were either happy, sad, devastating. It was a random generator. So the person doing it had no idea what the next picture was going to happen. But the heart coherence showed that the person started to react 6 seconds before the picture was even picked by the simulator of how the body was responding. So our cells send out that antenna scientifically to actually know what's coming in.
Wow.
Right.
Okay.
So then the intuition of the download is sometimes you'll get it for business, right? Probably like you with this podcast, you're like, this is a great idea for an episode. And that comes in, the intuition leads you, kind of guides you into those right areas. So I think they play hand in hand very well together, but there is a little bit of difference where almost like intuitively, if I'm working on you, or sorry, you won't think it's intuitive if I'm working on you and you're like, Britt, that doesn't feel good. Right? The body's telling you that. But if you're like, you know what, I actually need to go to an osteo, like intuitively, you decide that, so to speak, right? Okay, so there's a little bit of difference in that aspect.
Okay. I love that. That really kind of helps to distinguish for myself, for sure, what's going on, the conversations that are happening inside. Because I know, you know, I've got a loud internal voice. And I think that's so important that you're helping people to listen to themselves. As you said, that self-awareness, like, is the key to self-responsibility, right? And I think that's what sovereignty is about. For me, is about knowing myself enough, believing in my conviction and my belief enough to take action in alignment with that and not look to the external for proof, validation, structures, explanations, you name it. So it sounds like you're doing just that.
Yeah. And I think you hit that perfectly, actually, right? Because you just told me sovereignty is actually all those listening to your body, which increases your intuition, because then you can actually get those downloads easier. Then you can embody it. And living in that self-trust alignment and conscious choice, you'll now be more likely to hear your intuition and make that step to go towards it.
Okay, so maybe take us back to something that in your journey, your personal path, or maybe something that you see in general with the clients you work with. Where's the turning point for, you know, if there's people and listeners out there who are going through something where they feel a total disconnect with their body sovereignty and how they're, you know, handling, you know, taking care of themselves, or dealing with something where, you know, maybe the establishment is saying you're fine, all your tests are clear, but intuitively, you know, you're like, maybe not. Or that body talk is saying, I'm a little concerned and I don't know what to do. Like what kind of, you know, direction would you recommend, or in your experience have you taken, or whatever?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I feel every person that comes to me, they need to be validated. Kind of like what you're saying, we need to validate ourselves. But if they've been into a system that hasn't validated them, kind of like my original story of like, you're fine, good luck, like see you later. And you're like, I'm fine.
We've all been through that in some way. Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. So I find just validating them, getting them to tell me every single thing you're experiencing. And then with my knowledge, I actually show them how it's connected. So now I'm taking them where they're like, is it all in my head? Because I have so many patients that will turn to me and be like, you might not believe me when I say this, and I think it's from XYZ, or I think it's all connected. Because they've said that to others and they get shut down, which therefore, as you know, shuts down the confidence, shuts down all those things. So instantly,
your self-advocacy, all of that. Yeah.
All of that. So when they first say that to me, I get them to take me through it all. And then I will show them, be like, that actually makes sense to me. And I will actually tell them the scientific process of how that's all interrelated. Right. And then they instantly are like, I feel validated. What's going on? Now they're in a comfortable position that now we can be like, hey, what kind of stressful situations happened around this time? So now we can bring in the mental and emotional piece, not just the physical, right?
Emotional validation.
Yeah. And we can see it. Like I said at the beginning, there's this wheel. So if we're dealing with a physical symptom and everyone's saying you're fine, then there's something deeper there. There is this either like psychosomatic suppressed emotion, something there that actually has to be released as well, that we really need to go into. So I will go dive into with my patients with that, because usually then they are feeling open and vulnerable because I was the first one to say like, yeah, I believe you.
I resonate with that. Like even from a work perspective and working with clients, like clients even in legal will come to me and they say, well, you've never seen this before, right? And it's like, actually, it's okay. Like I see this all the time, you know, and you can give clients and people you're working with the confidence to say like, you're not crazy. It's not out of left field. And I think what's best is that then you can create a plan of action. I think, you know, for me, sovereignty is like a mindset shift first and then an action step second. And, you know, that self-awareness and that validation and that, okay, we've come into recognition. Now what? How do we take that next step towards that self-responsibility?
Yeah, right. And I think the people, for anyone listening, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, even the people that come to us, I'm all like, kudos to you. You're stepping into sovereignty. You need to go to Vanessa for like law stuff. The fact that you're like, oh, we've never probably seen this before. And you're like, actually, I have. Good for you for making that decision because it's hard for people to do that. So that's empowered decision making right there. Mm-hmm. So that is part of the action.
Right. Taking the first step. It's like working out, right? Putting your running shoes on is the hardest sometimes. Making that first phone call, getting out the door, you know, sending that cold email, you know, sometimes that's the hardest piece. And I love that from that self-aware, confident place. You can kind of take that scary action. So, maybe are there some tips you can suggest for, you know, getting past the fear or some of the resistance or limiting beliefs or hesitations that, you know, people have when they really want to listen to their body and do something intuitive, but all the shoulds around them are, you know, shitting on their parade?
Yeah. Happens so many times. Right. Honestly, the number one thing I get people to do on my table, because you get that they'll come and then all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, I'm here. This means I have to change. This is a lot. One step at a time, one step at a time. One of my favorite things to do, and I'll do this with client over and over again. They might've seen me forever, but they come in hot, I call it, where they're all over and we need to bring them down because you can't take action in a fear-based situation because the energy you put out is going to then cause you to retract or pretty much cause you to manifest something that will not work out if the fear is negative based.
I envision like when you're fearful, like static, like if you're looking at like a ECG kind of chart, like that's the energy that's like coming out of you. Whereas when you're like calm, it's like, who? It's like, who can say, like, you know, that like Xenia or whatever, Enya in the background, like that's the vibe.
Yeah. So I get patients instantly to go there. And the easiest way to do that, I mean, listeners can do this right now. If you just kind of close your eyes and envision, take a deep breath, envision your own body right now. And what I want you to do is think of all the energy that isn't yours, that doesn't serve you, that doesn't hold you in the greatest and highest good. Imagine it like a fog lifting up off your body. And it's okay if it takes a little bit of time. And then I'll tell them to let me know when it's done. Yeah. Right. Now, instantly, they're already calmer. But now here's the key point after this. Now I want you to call back all your own energy. You don't need to know who you gave it to, where you left it, anything like that. But we want to clear it with like a white light, gold light, ultraviolet flame, whatever's healing to you. It's almost pulling that sovereignty back in. Mm-hmm. Perfect.
Beautiful.
And when they do that, see how your energy just calmed down?
Totally.
Fear's no longer there because you're like, I'm safe, I'm grounded. Look what I just could do in a matter of 30 seconds to a minute?
Moments. Yeah.
Yeah. To come back in. So I'll instantly get them to do that as like little tips or tricks, or say you're in a situation and you game time decision. It's high performance, high pressure. Okay. Rezone. Box your worries, I also say. Let's box them. Let's put them over here. So I was teaching this to high executives. We've all done this. You check your phone right before a big meeting. Shouldn't have. There was bad news on it.
Yeah.
Or like something that caused.
Totally.
Instantly.
Right before bed.
Oh, the worst. We've all done it. Just one last email. No.
Yeah.
And what I call it is boxing your worries. So you put it over here. And what you do with that is you say, you know what? For example, we're on this podcast day. It's going to end at 1 p.m. I'm going to say, you know what, Britt? Yeah, we just read this message. We're going to go to that at 1 p.m. and actually go in and see what's really emotionally involving that for you. But because I do that, we've closed the loop for the brain. So brain does not like open loops. So an open loop, for an example, would be like, hey, Vanessa, give me a call back. I have something really important to talk to you about. You're going to be like, oh God, is Britt okay? Is she mad at me? What's happening?
Yeah. Something an emergency. Like
something in emergency. Whereas if I said, hey, Vanessa, I'm super stoked about this podcast. Can you give me a call back? I just want to confirm the time it's at. You're like, okay, yeah, I can shoot her a message. Your brain instantly closes the loop. So when we box the worry, and this could be health related, this could be anything, we put it over here and say, you know what? Maybe right now I can't deal with this, but at this time I'm going to go look at that and I'm going to dive in. And maybe that's 10 minutes of journaling or, what are the emotions that whole situation brings up for me? Mm-hmm. But you close the loop for the brain so it can actually pretty much the reptilian brain shuts off. You're not in a fight or flight anymore because you've closed it. So now the brain's like, okay, it's like a task off your checklist. Check over here and you can move on. So even in a session, if a client has all these lists, I'll be like, okay, I hear this. We're going to talk about this in like 20 minutes after I do the X, Y, Z. And that's what people can do on like a daily with anything, right? Is to just box that worry and then kind of come back to it when you're in that more grounded position.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I feel like time blocking and calendar blocking is something that I use to kind of intuitively do, box my worries. Like, when things come in, it's like, I'm not in a position to deal with this right now. We're going to have to put that to when I can fully focus and engage my energy, fully on that task and that thing.
Yeah. Right. And they can do that with food. Why do I not want to work on my diet? Okay. That's right now I'm in a medical appointment. I'm not going to look at that right now. You know what? After, when I have time tonight, while I'm eating dinner, I'm going to look at that and be like, what is my resistance there? Right. And just asking questions is the number one thing people can do.
Okay. So I want to take that and segue to something that you created to help people ask themselves important questions. And I want to talk a little bit about your book and this beautiful tool that you've created to help people lean into that self-awareness. So can you share that with me?
Yeah. So it was a book called 365 Days to Know Yourself. And the reason I created it was actually during COVID. I had all these patients with a lot of mental and emotional disturbances because the world was kind of up in flames, we'll say, totally. To put it lightly.
And flying heap of.
yeah. And people were stuck at home, which means they were stuck with their shadow self. They were stuck with the internal sense of them that they hadn't had to witness yet because they were always running off doing instead of going inwards. So
instead of being a human being, John Kabat-Zinn always talks about the difference between being a human doing versus a human being.
Yes, which is a beautiful analogy. And so this book is really to ask you questions about like your core values, like get into that emotional, mental state of yourself so you can really look inwards to be like, wow, what is actually in here that I need to do? And at the end of the day, you can do the book from start to finish. You can do it, just randomly open up a page. But the whole point is to really actually connect you with yourself so you actually know your compass and what you're dealing with.
It's so important. It's so important to like get that self-awareness. I think it's key. And I love that we started this whole episode off with talking about that and the work that you do and the tools that you've created help people to pull that out. It's like without knowing yourself, without knowing what you actually value and what motivates your decisions and, tapping into that shadow self, like the shadow self, maybe for those who like don't really understand what that means, can you kind of explain, what that is?
Yeah, we'll make it simple for people. The shadow self, I will say, is the place that you don't want to go to. It is all the subconscious programming that is coming out in the worst of times, we'll say. So maybe you're reactive, right? And you don't know why you just ate your partner's head off.
It, yeah.
Yeah.
Why
you just exploded like a bomb. That's your shadow self coming out, but it happens because we're not conscious of it. But I always tell people, where there is darkness, there is light. And so if we can shine upon that, it allows us to change and bring more into the awareness piece of where we actually need those values to align us to. So the shadow is just, it's like going down into that basement with the light off, where you're like, I'm scared, I don't want to go here. And you're running up those stairs so fast. But it's where the deepest healing happens, because it is the unconscious. So you do have to shine a light on those shadows to go through. But it would be pretty much the uncomfortable aspects of ourselves that we don't want to look at, because we're all fine and dandy and peaches and rainbow and sunshine.
Yeah. Totally. I think of shadows in like the health and wellness, world, especially like in my own experience. And like, I could work with nutrition coaches and fitness coaches and all of that. And like the conversation that I have in my mind about food and when I make eating decisions, like that's a conversation that even after years of work and like doing the shadow work is still something where there's like a little dark shadow, right? It's
a little gremlin.
Little gremlin. I love food and, I love working out, but making sure I continue to come at that from like a health focused, approach is the work. And I think, this is not a one and done. I love that, 365 days in your book, like do it every year. Ask yourself the same questions. Like this is like even something that, the level of awareness to make decisions that are not based on your shadow, that are based on like, what would my highest, healthiest, version of myself be doing here? And to act in alignment with that is so hard.
Yeah. And it will constantly change, because we're evolving as people every day. You think you want something, you get it. Then we're like, oh, actually, I need to tweak that a little bit. Right? Even with business strategies, you realize something works, something doesn't work, you tweak it. It's the same with us as human beings. We think, I want to live this way because that's going to be in alignment with me. And then you do it and you're like, oh, until I do it, then it's a little different. Right?
Okay. So that's a great like little question then, is like, how can people, and like maybe you don't know the answer to this, but like, how can people like tell the difference in themselves if they're like, if it's true resistance, as in like, this is not good for me, like intuitively body talk wise, versus like, I don't want to go to the gym today. Like, that kind of like, or I don't want to do X, Y, Z that I have made a commitment to myself to do. In the moment, there's times where it's like, well, I'm just being present and being intuitive and like letting my body like do what it wants, versus like, I have a goal, I made a commitment, that balance. How do you kind of manage that balance for yourself and even your patients?
That's a brilliant question. I love this question so much. I've never been asked a question like this, so I'm stoked for this one.
My personal challenge, so I can imagine others out there also, wondering. God,
so brilliant. I'm just like, as you're saying that, I actually went through myself of like, how do I test that? The thing, what voices are you hearing in the sense of what are they actually saying? A true voice of like the little gremlin coming out is very, very, at least for myself, so I'm going to assume with others, I'll check with my patients and get back to you. But for me, it's very defensive. Instantly defense. Oh, I'm too tired. I'm too this. I'm too that. Boom, 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 boom. Everything.
Okay. A little snippy.
Right? Like, bed feels so much more comfortable. Yeah. But it's it's instant. It's like that little gremlin coming in being like, well, boom, 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 X, Y, Z. That's why we shouldn't do it. Where you can feel almost the restriction. So we go back to that light and heavy.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Right?
Versus like it would feel so much lighter for me to lay on the couch this morning instead of go to the gym.
Yeah. Be like, is this what my body actually needs and wants? Change the verbiage that way. So when you actually ask that question, for example, me, I ended up, I actually took a rest day from the gym yesterday. Doesn't usually happen during the week for all the listeners. I'm like a Monday to Friday. I can be very rigid with it. So this is a beautiful example.
Very committed. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was funny. I had my own session done because I practice what I preach.
That's
and I literally woke up in the morning and mine was the opposite. It was go, 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 go. And I was like, ooh, there's that gremlin because it was aggressive.
Sure. Yeah.
So what I did is I sat up in bed, stretched, brushed my teeth, and I was like, let me sit down with my morning routine and let me see how it goes. And as I felt in, I could actually feel that the integration wasn't done with the session I had. So then I said, okay, body, is it best for me to actually push my workout till the next day for the session to fully integrate? And when I got that, man, my body felt light. I just went for a nice longer walk with the dogs. And that's a way that you can deal with it. So sometimes it's changing the verbiage to be like, what, like I said, with the gym, is this what my body actually wants and needs right now?
Yeah.
Right.
Even with food, like, even with different things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And sometimes I'll even be like, because we've all done this, you make plans with friends and then you're like, I'm so tired. Do I really want to go?
It's 9 p.m. Like, it's time for bed.
Oh, bed's calling. And I'll sit there and I'll be like, do I truly not want to go? Or is my body starting to wind down right now? And if I look, and I'll also ask, like, will I have a good time? Will I enjoy the company I'm with? And when that all feels light and expansive, I'm like, okay, let's go. Yeah. But if there's another thing of like, oh my God, no, like it's feeling heavy. I haven't had a time where it's felt that.
No.
Yeah.
It's a no.
No. Right. And then next thing you know, you got sick that night and that's why, or whichever. Right.
Yeah. The world created a reason for you not to go. Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be the way to deal with that. Like go into that light and heavy, see what it truly feels, try to reword it in a different way to ask the question, because it could be the shadow self wording it to trick you to say no.
That's right. It's like, and your shadow self can come out in such different ways. As you said, like your gremlin is like the go, go, go gremlin. And my gremlin is like the let's get under a blanket kind of gremlin. So your gremlin can be something different to everyone, that shadow self. Yeah. So that awareness is like so personal. So I just love that we've been talking so much about self-awareness and intuition. And I'm just feeling like ready to go ahead and keep on my personal health journey and, love that. Good stuff. Okay. So as we're kind of wrapping up, I know we've talked a lot about intuition, about listening to yourself. Is there any final stories or any brilliant takeaways or anything final that you really want to share as a nugget for our listeners?
Yeah, I just really want to share the core message here is true healing and resilience. It comes from the awareness, responsibility, and alignment that you live within yourself. And when you understand your body, your mind, and emotions deeply, that's when you regain that sovereignty over your own health and life, right? Your body isn't working against you. It's communicating with you. And the more you listen, the more power you have to create that lasting, say, transformation for yourself, or to create that lasting life that you actually get excited about in the morning, right? We want to shift from the disconnection and reliance on the external fixes to the deep self-awareness and personal responsibility, because there is where you can make empowered decisions, right? And we've done it in our lives, right? I went from, eating disordered self to working for other people to creating my own practice and finding this because that's what sovereignty was for me, right? And trusting myself going through that and just believing in myself, but advocating for myself and taking the responsibility, right? And when something didn't feel good, why was that? Question it so you know why it doesn't feel good. So then you can make decisions based off that actually go the opposite direction of where you actually need them to.
Oh, I know I said we were going to wrap up, but something you said just sparked another little thought in my mind. And it's that shift between, okay, we've dealt with the self-awareness. We have that now, but the taking responsibility part, the shifting out of victimhood part, I think that's the gold nugget underneath the surface in like phase 2, of that sovereignty step. And I just wanted to like highlight and pull that out that you said that, because it's so special, and we need to get support and we need to get help from people who can like help us tap in and take those aligned steps. And I'm so grateful for all of the wisdom you've been able to share with the audience today about, the way that you help your clients, the way you found sovereignty in your own life. Before we kind of wrap things up, Brittany, I would love for you to share with everyone how they can follow you, get in touch with you, if there's any, anything you want to share with the audience.
Yeah. So I first want to say a little tidbit on your last note there, because this is like a little golden nugget for everyone. You can't hold judgment when you're curious. So when you're living your sovereignty life, or you kind of get that self-awareness and you're kind of shifting out of that victimhood, that's judgment. But if you get curious to like, what did I do to cause this? What did I do that kind of led me here? How can I change things? There's a curiosity piece. A child is always curious and they never hold judgment. So if you can hold curiosity in your own life, you'll be able to drop that victimhood mentality and really kind of self-alleviate the pain.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. Shake that victimhood off for sure.
Yeah. In saying that, everyone can find me at totalitytherapies.com. You can also reach me on my Instagram, which is Brittany A. Bird, Brittany. And I actually do have an ebook coming out, which will be talking about how to listen to yourself and creating that self-awareness and diving deeper into like the mental and emotional symptoms of things, which should be out in the next couple weeks. So on my Instagram, you can always sign up for my newsletter and you'll have the first rights of refusal, we'll say.
Well, we wouldn't say that is non-legally binding.
Yeah.
just to say, but anyway, yes, thank you so much for coming on the show today, Brittany, and sharing with the listeners your story of personal sovereignty and, the tools and the incredible shifts that you're helping people make on a daily basis to get into their most self-aware, most self-responsible, taking action, initiated, and sovereign selves. And thank you to all my listeners for tuning into this episode. If you like what you hear, please subscribe, give us a comment, follow along for more. And without further ado, court is now in recess.
Oh, 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 oh.
That's a wrap for this episode of Sovereign Conversations with the Soul Attorney. If today's conversation sparked something in you, let's keep that momentum going. Head on over to www.thesoulattorney.com to grab free resources, explore my membership community, The Cornerstone, and step even deeper into your power. And don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Until next time, my friends, keep leading, keep trusting, and keep building your empire on your own terms. See you soon.